Achievement diaries, everyone's favorite piece of content. Now, I decided to talk about achievement diaries because, well, I want to, and it's my channel, so yeah. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about achievement diaries, and in reality, I could divide these three things in three separate videos, but I'm just gonna talk about everything in one video and just generally speak about these things as opposed to just, you know, speak way too in detail about these things. So this video is going to be sort of divided in like three major topics. Number one are the tasks that achievement diaries have. The second one is the rewards that they provide. And the third one is the system in of itself. And again, I'm not going to go too much into detail on each one of those. I just sort of want to give you an overall of, achievement diaries, I guess. Now, first of all, I think that it's important to understand the place that achievement diaries have in the game. In RuneScape 3, they were released for different areas over the coming years. I think that they started in 2007 or 8. I can't really remember too well. And then, throughout the years, they released more of them. In Old School, they came in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. I actually can't remember it. But essentially, achievement diaries serve a very interesting purpose in the game, which is to incentivize exploration, not just of places and pieces of content and mechanics that you should engage with and are really important, but also somewhat, you know, obscure pieces of content and obscure places, right? So if that is their purpose, how do they actually fare when it comes to, their existence? And well, first and foremost, if that is the objective that they have, what are the tasks about? Well, tasks are all over the place. Some tasks are actually really good, others not so much. And to give you the perfect example of this, at the end of the day, you have a task to get a Granite body, if I'm not mistaken, from Barbarian Assault for the medium Kandarin diaries. And that is good. It teaches you that Barbarian Assault exists. Barbarian Assault provides the torso, Penance torso, which is like a really good piece of gear. It's basically a cheap Bandos without all of the defense, but all of the offensive bonuses. So, it's a really good, easy, cheap item to get. And overall, Barbarian Assault is, a place that is really popular. It's iconic in the game. It's a mini game that you really shouldn't miss. It's a mini game that you should try and go for, right? So that's a really good task. It essentially teaches players that might miss Barbarian Assault that, hey, that place actually exists, it has those rewards, it works like this, you can't have to play one game anyway to buy the Granite body, so it's a good task. For a bad task, we go for the Elite Kindred Diary tasks, which there's a task where you need to max all 5 or all 4 rolls to level 5 of Barbarian Assault. And I don't understand why this task necessarily exists. At the end of the day, you already play the minigame, you understand how it works because of a previous task. All this task does is you have to grind a minigame that you might not even enjoy grinding, and I just don't necessarily understand as to why that task even exists. I would understand if, the task was about maxing one roll, for example, right? Or something along those lines, but overall, that task just doesn't make too much sense. It's way too focused on grinding as opposed to exploration and teaching you about the game, and in this case, the Kandarian area, because there are things in that area that don't have a task that you don't know about, like, for example, the fact that you can revisit the Shadow Dungeon from the Desert Treasure. It's a thing that you just really don't know unless you do Clue Scrolls, I guess, because there's 2 places there, one for Elite, one for Master, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it would be a good thing to teach people that, hey, there's monsters here that you can kill that do a better service, right? Another very good example of how these tasks can actually teach you about the game is in RuneScape 3, the Karanja diaries. There's a task where you need to get a egg from an island with lizards, where then you need to incubate it in Artoin, and you gain a follower from that. You need summoning level for it, and yeah, apparently the first pet in the game, besides the cat from Gertrude's cat, actually came from summoning. That was like the first pets that were introduced in the game, and in fact, there's another task from Elite Karanja Diaries where you need to get a monkey as a pet as well. So, there's actually, I had no idea these pets were a thing, by the way. I have no idea summoning could be used for that, mainly because I didn't engage too much with that part of summoning, right? So it was really interesting to know that, hey, this mechanic actually exists. It's obscure, sure, I never used it again, but it's nice to know that, hey, it's there in the game, it exists, right? It taught me something that otherwise I would have never engaged with, right? So Achievement Diaries pushed me to explore parts of the game that I otherwise would have never touched, right? In old school, another good example of that is the Lumbridge to Drainer sewers, because I'm a free player, so I know that that area always existed. But if you're not that attentive to things, and you don't like exploration, that area might never see the light of day when it comes to you going into it, right? So that task essentially just tells you that, hey, by the way, there's an anvil here that you can actually use if you didn't know, right? This like little sewer exists in the game, Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of purpose, but it exists, and it's nice to know that things exist, right? So overall, those tasks are good. There's also, the task where, making a rune crossbow from scratch in Yanil and stuff like that. They just ask you to interact with the area, interact with the content in the area, and, as a result, become knowledgeable about that area, which, then you can claim the rewards for that area, right? Just signaling to people that, hey, I explored this area to the max. And the reason as to why we have from easy to elite rewards is exactly because a lot of the content isn't just in game, it's also early game. So the achievement diaries is sort of they exist as a sort of guide towards content that you might not see, that you might miss, that is really important, not just late game, but also early and mid game as well, right? And a lot of the tasks, again, are all over the place. Some tasks are too grindy. I don't understand why they are there. Some tasks already ask you to do stuff that you have already done before. So, overall, they don't do a really good job of existing, and they're more annoying to complete than, they feel rewarding to. Speaking of which, let's talk about rewards now. Essentially, I don't actually have much to say when it comes to rewards. I actually think that rewards from achievement diaries are OP. Well, I mean, nowadays they're not as OP anymore because the game has received so many updates, but they used to be quite OP back in the day, right when they first were released. And that's good. Hey, you're being rewarded, like needing quest cape and needing a bunch of 80s and 90s skills, right? You should definitely be rewarded for the work you did, right? The problem that I have when it comes to rewards is mainly, well, two, one. It's the fact that they're not really well balanced. And what I mean by this is, I think that as a whole, some rewards, especially when it comes to easy diaries, sometimes are better than elite or hard ones. For example, the RD Easy Diary gives you unlimited teleports to the Ardoin Monastery. The Ardoin Monastery is close to a fairy ring, which is great for early game Ironman. It puts you in a place that actually doesn't have that many teleports to begin with, and you have an altar really close to a teleport. So if you're doing any type of PVM or early game PVM, when you don't have a pool or a altar in your own POH, it's a great place. And all you need are the easy diaries done, which are incredibly easy tasks to complete. They don't actually have that many requirements, right? As opposed to some elite diaries that not only do not give you that many good things, like for example the Felidor art diaries that don't actually give you that many good rewards, and on top of that they are far harder to complete. Or for example, certain elite diaries give you access to certain agility shortcuts that save like 2 seconds, right? You need the elite diaries to access agility shortcuts that save you like 2 seconds, when some of the easy ones give you unlimited teleports to a place, right? That doesn't have many teleports around. For example, Umbridge and Drainer, you only need the art diaries to get unlimited teleports with the cabbage port. And that's pretty good. It's next to a air patch, right? It places you in somewhat of a good location that doesn't have that many teleports. right? And sometimes it's almost a better teleport to the south part of Falador than any Falador diary reward can actually provide to you, right? And you only need the Ard diaries, right? Which are actually not their art because they're the Lumberjan trainer diaries, right? So at the end of the day, when it comes to balancing, some diaries as a whole have much better rewards, especially when it comes to the fact that some of those rewards apply to everywhere in Gielinor and not just to that specific area. But also, even within the same area, sometimes some of the rewards can be a bit all over the place. I know I touched on RD, and I know that the Elite Diaries do provide you unlimited teleports to the Ardoin Earth Patch, which is, pretty good, right? But yeah, I think that a bit of a balancing when it comes to a lot of these rewards, especially when it comes to the agility shortcuts, should definitely be looked at and, definitely rebalanced. And that leads us inevitably to the last point that I want to talk about in the video, which is the system in of itself. I think it's not a secret that when it comes to achievement diaries, a lot of stuff isn't in the diaries. In again old school, the diaries were released in. I really want to say 2014. I can't remember if it's 2015 or 2014. I really cannot remember, but they have been released quite a long time ago. Old school is 10 years old by now. We have weekly updates, and I'm not counting the first 2 years because the first 2 years were a bit of a you know uh, tumultuous time. We didn't have a lot of new content because people didn't know if they wanted new content or not, and there's a lot of stuff in there. But even from 2015, that's 8 years of updates. Updates that oftentimes they're not going to be reflected in the achievement diaries, right? So the system really doesn't actually have up-to-date tasks. A lot of the tasks are really old and they're not really that good. And I mean, some of the tasks are scaled infinitely, like the Quest Cape task, which is just stupid to exist, but hey, I guess people love paying. And at the end of the day, it's not a good system. It leaves a lot of tasks outside. It doesn't provide any new rewards for the areas that sometimes could be better rewards than existing rewards. So, well, what we do about it? Do we just change the system? And the problem here is that actually when it comes to this type of systems, you really cannot change it without reworking it entirely. And in a way, if you did, you would defeat the purpose of the system in of itself. At the end of the day, when it comes to Shaman Diaries, you could do a thing where you would release batches of diaries, right? Where you would release different versions of diaries with more rewards and things like that. But at that point, achievement diaries would feel more like a system with rewards that you need to complete because it has really good rewards, as opposed to something that just exists for the people that want to explore the world to its maximum. And in a way, it's sort of a cursed design, right? Regardless of the system that you're going to implement, there's always going to be a lot of drawbacks, right? If you were to implement batches with more tasks and more rewards, you would inevitably get to a point where a lot of that would just be super clogged, where a lot of the tasks, you would have so many, and you already have like 500 tasks or something like that, so you already have plenty of tasks, right? But you will get to the point where you'd have so many tasks, so many rewards that again, it will defeat the purpose of the content being used as exploration and to incentivize exploration of certain content. And, it would feel really arbitrary and a lot of people would feel burned by it. You can also just keep the same system and add more tasks and rewards as you go, but for that to happen, you would need to either give rewards to people already completed, even if they don't have the new tasks, or ask them to recomplete achievement diaries. And when it comes to most content in this game, the thing that most people hate is having to work again for the rewards, right? If I already earned this reward, I should be able to keep it. That's how most of the game works, with the exception of Maxscape, which even then, even in RuneScape 3, you only get a new skill like every 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 4, right? So, I mean, archaeology came out in 2019. It's 2023, right? It's 4 years ago, right? So, or, Quest Cape. But I mean, Quest Cape quests are iconic in themselves, and you don't need a Quest Cape to enjoy the rewards from the quests. The Quest Cape only gives you the reward of the Quest Cape in of itself. That's an additional reward to the quest rewards that already exist. So when it comes to those exceptions, people can live with them, But just look at combat achievements, right? People don't really enjoy having to lose the rewards every time a new boss comes out, just so they have to go back, do all the tasks just to get the rewards they already got before. And that's exactly why they're changing to a point-based system, and it's so, people don't actually end up losing important rewards, or at least the base rewards from combat achievements when it comes to that, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of how you look at it, yes, the current achievement diaries has a lot of flaws, right? When it comes to some tasks not making sense, rewards being imbalanced, and the system, missing a lot of new content, a lot of new tasks that don't reflect how much the game has changed. But at the same time, well, it serves its purpose. Regardless of how well or badly it does serve its purpose. So for now, at the end of the day, honestly, just keep it the way it is. Yeah, maybe in the future we can consider changing it to a more robust system where you have far more tasks and it's a more uniform system, sort of like how, collection log has most logs within one place. But for now, achievement diaries are in a pretty good state. They do their job. They help people explore mechanics and places in the game that are either really important or maybe they wouldn't go to, and that's their purpose. That's the purpose they fulfill, and they fulfill it quite well. And they give some nice rewards as well for that exploration. And rewards that aren't so OP that you need to go out of your way to complete it. They're just nice to have. So yeah, that's it.